This is a video for how to go about creating tougher ISOs number 2 in Fusion 360. You will notice in the pulley image we have over here on the right hand side, we have kind of this circular disc object, and we have a block eye in here, this kind of block eye area that shows, where material was cut, and we got some fillets in here, and then we have this hollowed out area here in the middle. You'll note that on the right hand side, the way that we have diameters communicated to us is through extension and dimension lines. We only have one leader line here coming in from the side. It says 26.9 up here, and that's just to show this kind of hollowed out, area in here where it almost looks like you just slide something through the other side, and you'd be able to just catch it on the other side. The only material we see is this kind of block eye area right in here. So we're going to assume, just for the sake of creating the video, that we're going to be in millimeters. So the first thing I want to do is go to document settings, and we're going to go from inches to millimeters. I'll go ahead and say OK with that. Let's go back to our image here, and we want to create for ourselves a sketch, and we want to mainly focus on this depth dimension of 66 to start with. So I'm going to grab a hold of Create Sketch, and I'm going to go to Create Sketch, and I'm going to go to the line command. Now, let's go ahead and start at the origin, and we're going to draw our depth dimension first. I'm going to put in 66, and I'm going to hit Enter, because on the object we can see that we have 66 right here. Now what I want to change this to, this is the full depth of the object. If I follow these extension lines up to the top, there's our full depth. I want to change this to a center line, because through this object we will be revolving this, but the center line is going to allow us to get these dimensions over here. So I'm going to click on the object, and I'm going to go over to center line and click, and you'll notice automatically it changes it to a center line for us. Now our next step is to start getting these, diameter dimensions placed, and the longest diameter dimension I have to place is this 82 millimeter diameter dimension. So we are going to need to start creating some construction lines to start. Now if I hit the letter X on my keyboard, it's automatically going to jump to construction. If I hit X again, it goes away. We want to stay in construction lines. So we're going to go to the line command, and I want to click, and I just want to drag up any distance right now. I'm just going to click and just place for myself a distance, and I'm going to go up to the dimension tab, and I'm going to click on this point and click on our center line and drag it over to the right, and I have 120 given right there, and I just want 82. So when I come back, I'm going to say 82, and I'm going to hit Enter, and notice it gave us this nice diameter dimension just like what we see in the object here. Works very well. We're going to stay in construction lines for the sake of just creating some workspace up here. There's different ways you can go about doing this, but I'm going to teach you kind of a way to go through and create this in this workspace. I'm going to grab a hold of the line command, and I'm going to click in the top left-hand corner point up here. I'm not going to click when I come down, or I just want to reference it. And I'm going to get this blue dotted line to come up, and I'm going to click, and I'm going to come straight down and snap here. And it kind of gives us this, area. If this was just a rectangle, for us to kind of create this, block eye shape in here again in this little hollowed out area. Now our next longest dimension that we have as far as diameter goes is 70. And I'm going to grab a hold of the line command. Note that we're still in construction. I'm just going to draw for myself just a line straight across like that. Just make sure that it's straight. I'm going to go to dimension, construction line to center line. I'm going to drag over. I'm going to put in 70. And I'm going to hit Enter. Come right over here. I can see I've got a 66, a 48, a 44. So I'm going to do these in order. You always want to try to go from largest to smallest in this case. So I've got a 66 right in here. Same concept. I'm going to click. I'm going to come over. I'm going to grab a hold dimension from here to our center line. I'm going to come over and go 66. Hit Enter. Let's go back. I see a 48, a 44. So we're going to go next to 48. And then we'll go to 44. So I'm going to try to stay away from snapping here. Do not snap here. That'll automatically give you just to the midpoint of there. Go back to here. Let's click. Come down. I'm going to come over. I'm going to put in 48. So we have our 48 now. And we need 44 and 26.9. Same concepts. I'm going to go to here. Here we go. Down to here. 44. Next one. 26.9. Come straight across. Again, there's multiple ways that you could do this, but this gives us a good space. Some things will start to make a little bit more sense as I get further into teaching this. So we can kind of drag these out a little bit. Gives us a little bit more room to see exactly where these lines are going. But the reason why we created that center line on the bottom is we want to get our dimensioning exactly the same as what we see in this object over here. Now our next step is to draw a couple vertical lines And you will notice that, I've got this 1.5 on both sides because this object up here goes the full depth, this full 66 depth, but this part in here only goes 63, so I have to subtract 1.5 from each side. We're going to grab a hold of the line command, and I'm going to come up here to the top, and I'm just going to draw straight down until it snaps. And I am going to dimension from here to here 1.5. And we need that on each side. Line command from here down to here, here to here. 1.5 on each side. You can kind of see how some of this little block eye area is starting to take shape, but we need to find these vertical distances right in here in the middle. And you can see there is a 12 right down through the center. So what we will do is we're going to grab a hold of the line command, and I do want to snap to this midpoint. When you see that triangle, that means the midpoint. And we're going to click and drag straight down until we see the other midpoint on our center line. I'm going to draw another line on this side, and I'm going to go ahead and draw another line on the opposite side, just like this. Two different lines. Grab a hold of dimension, and it's a distance of 12, so we want to do 6 on each side. I'm going to click and go 6. And then on the other side, we're just going to give a quick, reference dimension. That's going to be a function. I'm going to tap on the 6 over here, and we automatically now have that distance of 12 down through the middle. So when we go back to our image, we'll see here we have these lines through here, and we have almost everything that we pretty much need to create this kind of block eye shape in here. So we'll notice that we have fillets up here on the top that are a radius of 3. The fillet radiuses are pretty much constant throughout. I have fillet radii up here on the top on both sides. I have them in here, but I do not have them down here. So what we want to do is to take a look and say, there's also some diagonal lines in here. And this diagonal line, is from, where the 66 dimension is, which is right along here, and it would snap up to where my 70 dimension is. If you see the 70 diameter, that's why we have these extension lines. And that's the benefit of sketching this out this way, is I can very clearly see where my 66 and my 70 is. We need to draw a diagonal line. So we're going to go to the line command, and we're going to draw from the bottom of our diameter of 70 line in towards our 66 line. Same thing on the opposite side. We're staying in construction lines, and these are going to go all the way out to the side. We went all the way out for a reason, because when we come back into here, we'll see this went all the way from out here and came into our 66 dimension line. So we're going to do some fillets that are a radius of 3. We're going to modify. Let's go to fillet. And I'm going to click up here on the top, and I'm going to click on my side, and the radius will be 3. So I'm going to have to put in a radius of 3. I'm going to hit enter, go back to fillet. It'll say a warning about some things, but we'll fix that later. And we're going to say from here, to the side, we put ourselves a radius of 3 again. And with the same thing on the opposite side. Now, one issue you might run into is there might be a little bit of a gap in here that we'll have to fill in just a little bit later. We're going to come over here and do the exact same thing on the opposite side. We will go fillet. We'll go from here to here, put in 3 again, fillet again, from here to here, put in 3. And you can see how we're starting to create what you see up here on the top in this object. So when we go back to the object, you can see we've started this into here. Now I need a fillet radius into here, and I need to, change some other things up. It looks like I got my 48 comes right into this area. I can see my 48 dimension is right along here. This is where, we'll start to see a little bit of curvature in here, and there's also a little block that comes down into this area. So just as we take a look, we are right here in this area. We need to create some fillets, but this right here is going to be straight 90 degrees. That goes, right to that 26.9 dimension. So this area right here is going to be a perfect 90-degree angle. I do have some curves in here. From the 48 to the 44, there is an angled line. So from the 48, which is right in here, to the 44, we have ourselves an angled line. Let's grab a hold of construction line. We're going to draw those 2 diagonal lines right in this area here. Now they only go out to our 1.5 dimension. You can see that we no longer have that 66 width line up here. We only have that 1.5 gap in, and that's because we had the 1.5 come in here to the side. We only want this diagonal line to come to this area because we had the 63 that went right up to here. So now we're going to go back to fillet. We once again, from here to here, put in a distance of 3. We could have mirrored this, but just for the sake of learning new skills, We could have simply just come in. Let's put a distance of 3 again. We'll go ahead and hit enter. We're going to do the same thing on the opposite side over here, from here to here. Put a distance of 3. Same thing over here. Go back to fillet. We're going to go from here to here, a distance of 3. So now you can see how we've basically created everything that we're going to need just right in this area here. Now the issue is, how do we go about changing these construction lines to object lines? Because if you can tell, all we needed was these reference points for the, for the construction lines, and we have a lot of stuff already set up. Now in some cases, we can just change these to object lines pretty simply. In other ways, we're going to have to sketch object lines over the top of them. So up here at the top, when I click on this line, all I have to do, is hit X on my keyboard, and it's now an object line. And I'm going to go through and hold down the Control key. And I'm going to select everything that I know that we are going to be keeping for object lines. Holding down the Control key allows you to select multiple things at once. So I have selected this area that I know for sure we're going to keep, and I'm just going to uncheck construction line. And you will see that I now have these lines. Now, a black line means that it's a perfect object line. Blue means there's something unconstrained. And I can see up here at the top, there's a little bit of a gap in here. So I'm going to make sure I'm no longer in construction, and I'm just going to make sure that I have myself this thing just closed off right here. I want that to be closed off. Looks like we might have a little gap up here. I'm not entirely sure. Come over to the other side. Sometimes just by closing these two little gaps off, it'll guarantee that I have now a black construction line. So we'll see where that takes us once we go in and try to finish this out. So our next step is going to be to make these two things right here object lines as well. Now we might have to draw over the top of these lines going across because they're might have to be trimmed, but instead of trimming them, we're just going to draw lines over them. So I want to take this line and and take away their construction line status and make them object lines. Next step, let's grab hold of the line command, and we're going to draw object lines over the top of these construction lines. Another benefit of construction lines is it allows us to just snap to these points. We've already placed dimensions. We can pretty much just start coming and start playing connect the dots at this point. And you'll notice that this turned light blue. And what that means is Fusion goes, oh, I totally see a profile now that I can make a solid out of. So in this case, we're going to go to Finish Sketch. And we're going to go to our house button. And now when we go up to Revolve, notice how Fusion automatically goes, I see that profile. Now I can revolve this. And I'm going to click and kind of drag this off. And what we can see right now is we can see basically the same object that we just created. You can see where material was cut. This out here is hollow. I can't really drag my mouse over any of this area out here. You can see the groove that's been placed in here. But we did all of this through, take away the view of my sketches, we did all of this through construction lines and taking those construction lines and turning them into object lines. Construction lines help you in immense ways when creating an object. So this looks to be at just about, about a 90-degree angle, which, I'm just going to keep this right in here like this. And I'm just going to go ahead and say, okay, just for the sake of saying, look how we got to, this object. It's kind of funny. It almost looks like a computer glitch on the side. We went through and made this object totally by creating that center line down through the middle allowed us to get these diameter dimensions. We didn't have to do any math or divide by 2 or anything. That center line at the beginning allowed us to go through and dimension our construction lines easily, and also allowed us to go through and create this space where you see material was cut. Kind of a cool way to take a look at a section view. So this has been a video for how to go about creating tougher ISOs number 2 in Fusion 360.